Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a couple days since the UFL championship game, and I gotta tell you, the DC Defenders beating the brakes off of the Michigan Panthers 58-34 to win their first ever UFL championship was not on my bingo card. Jordan Tomu, my God, 5 touchdowns, for the passing, outdueling the UFL MVP Bryce Perkins easily, and that Michigan offense, they tried their best. They tried their best, but I mean, ultimately, it was just way too much. Way too much of guys like Jaden Mickens. It was just all over the place. They had a couple turnovers for Michigan. It was just ultimately DC just had way too much. Had way too much to the offense. 390 passing yards for Tom, 21 to 28, 4 touchdowns, rushing touchdown to go with 28 rushing yards as well. And again, Jaden Mickens was probably the guy. Ty Stout a big touchdown catch. Riley Moore and Cornell Powell also grabbing touchdowns from Tom in this game. Malik Turner from Michigan was probably the only saving grace aside from Perkins, and maybe Nate McCrary too. But I mean, he only had 6 carries, 62 yards, but he did have a touchdown though. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that Defenders offense was just too much. I watched that DC team about a month or so ago, in Arlington, watched them come back and beat the Renegades. They always had an offense that was just really good, and they always were able to make the plays needed, and they did that this entire season. And man, this year the UFL, I'm not gonna lie to you. I took a year off the year beforehand because, I mean, for the most part, there was just really nothing I could say. I mean, my goodness, technically it was another blowout. Technically, this is another blowout, 24-point victory. But, Michigan was competitive for a good chunk of that game, maybe for like the first quarter or so. Ultimately, this is something interesting for the UFL, a new champion, because, Michigan was able to knock off Birmingham, and DC beat St. Louis. It did reflect the attendance, though. Less than 15,000 inside the dome at America Center in St. Louis for the UFL championship, but it's okay. Again, attendance has been a big thing. Ratings have also been a big thing, but it's fine. 983,000 is good enough for a Saturday night. Competing against a whole lot of stuff. So there have been some sightings already to the NFL. There have been some signings. The big ones being Harrison Mevis going to the Jets. He had a fantastic year. 21 to 23 on field goals. Really good year for him. My Dallas Cowboys have signed Period Winfrey. Sal Cannella is a Cleveland Brown for right now. Jaquarius Spivey is going to Kansas City for the moment. Damon Arnett, he's in Houston with the Texans. Barry Wesley in New Orleans. New Orleans needs offensive line help. Seth Green also to New Orleans. Mario Goodrich to Denver, and then Jashawn Corbin, which is a very surprising name from San Antonio. Very surprising that he got called up to Atlanta, but all right, it's fine. So that's so far in the UFL. So far, 2026, I don't know what's going to happen. A lot is probably going to have to happen. There's a couple of teams that are definitely looking like they're going to be chopped. Memphis and Houston, let's just keep it real. They're looking like they're going to be on the chopping block, at this point. And that's just what the rumors say. Who knows where, a lot of people are saying like, well, Seattle, Oklahoma, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Tampa Bay. I don't know, man. I don't know. UFL has to capitalize on the off-season momentum. Prove they're more than just just another spring league, and that's kind of what they've been telling me. They're just kind of telling me that they're just another spring league, which doesn't really differentiate anything. It's good that we do not have a repeat champion. That's about the only good thing I can say from the season. I have not watched as much as I would have liked, and there have been some games where there's been some truly, truly terrible football. There's been some truly, truly. Memphis and San Antonio were truly, truly terrible this year. Arlington and Houston rebounded to go 500, but playoffs were already set by week 8. So, that's going to be a big thing for next year. Is how in the world do we get, how in the world do we get playoffs, to matter a little bit more? For me personally, that's one thing. How are we going to get these games to matter? Yeah. They're on ABC, yeah, they're on Fox consistently, but people are doing other things, gotta move around to the week after the Super Bowl, yeah, but March Madness, but the Masters, but the NBA playoffs, but the NHL playoffs, but you're gonna always have conflict. Like, I watch a lot of different sports that have conflicts with a bunch of different things, so I know. I get what people are saying, but you got to understand, there are a lot of sports out there. The UFL is spring football. You are not at the top of the totem pole, okay? You're not at the top of the totem pole. You need to understand that. You're lucky you have the spots that you do have, because finally ABC's finally, trying to do at least a little bit more sports, at least a little bit more, with Monday Night Football being a thing every week pretty much for them now. And Fox has, invested a lot more in sports too. So, you're getting what you're getting because Fox owns, like half the league anyway, for one thing. You're getting what you're getting because you have the opportunities there in front of you. Now you have to make the most of them, though. You have to make the most of those opportunities. And you don't make the most of those opportunities, well, who knows? So, next year we'll see, because I believe this is the second to last year of the this is the third year of a 5-year deal. My bad. So the Friday night games, they were kind of mid for the most part. We'll see if things continue to, evolve, because things have to evolve next year for the UFL in order for it to continue to be the way it's supposed to be. They're already set for 2026. Remember, the CBA was a big thing early in the season. They got that done. The Players Association and the league got it done. Again, it's up to the league to continue to gain the momentum. And, if Houston and Memphis are going to be on the chopping block, put these two teams someplace, or even if you want to expand, put, 2 to 4 teams someplace where it can actually be viable. We can actually watch each and every game, each and every week. You know what I'm saying? So I'm out. I have nothing else to say about the UFL. I'll wait till, like January, February to talk about the UFL and stuff again. So yeah, I'm out. This video will be up a little bit later. Hockey video up first.